Testing 1, 2, 3. This will be the August 2nd, 2017 Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order a Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting of the City of Satellite Beach, August 2nd, 2017, approximately 6 p.m. Please join Member Montanaro for a moment of silence and the pledge.
Lord, thank you for allowing us to be here this evening. Help us to do what is right and just for our community as we deal with issues this evening. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3, citizens' comments. Moving on to agenda item 4, members' comments.
I have none.
None. Okay. Moving on to agenda item 5, executive director's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to let you know, the Civic Center is, Chairman, sorry. The Civic Center is, we just received our asbestos report. We have small remediation to do and redoing the bathrooms, but it won't be a big issue. And then we'll be redoing the bathrooms. So just to let you know that that's on track. The State Road A1A project is very much behind schedule. We are now starting the process of creating the design for the landscaping medians. We're looking at really a hardscape design with trees to prevent Public Works from having to maintain landscape islands in the middle of A1A. So that we're trying to put that together, and then we'll bring that back to you when we have that together. And when we get that together, we'll be applying for a grant with DOT to put that in. Other than that, that's all I got.
Okay, just a second, quick. Did we, the sidewalk issue on the property up there north by Montecito, did we get a hold of Hunt Pinnacle on upkeep of that, or how will we?
Yeah, we were looking at not just, we were also talking with DOT, because they're going through and redoing some of those and widening them. So we're talking to them about that issue, as well as on the other side of not putting in the sidewalk, because the new owners of the 24-acre project want to underground the utilities, and they don't want to put up a new sidewalk that they don't want to pull that up that just got put down. So we're asking them to not do that sidewalk. So it's been a long conversation.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further comments, Secretary? Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 6, discuss, make a recommendation on the City of Satellite Beach Community Redevelopment Plan Amendment.
Thank you, Chairman. The staff is asking for direction from you to basically amend the plan to end the CRA projects in 1920, fiscal year 1920. And this is largely due to the House Bill 7107, which will place a referendum on the ballot that will provide voters with the option to approve an additional $25,000 homestead exemption, which will bring the total exemption for homesteader properties to $75,000 in the City of Satellite Beach. The bill actually has varying degrees of exemptionness, which provides the greatest exemption of $25,000 for properties over $150,000 in value. And since we have no properties under the value of $150,000 in Satellite Beach, this exemption will affect us pretty badly. Considering that tax reduction referendums are typically always approved by voters, we are recommending that you assume that this will be approved and plan accordingly, and that the impact of this revenue reduction is expected to be $621,323, which represents approximately 5% of the overall city's general fund budget. This is equivalent to approximately 40% of the city's Public Works Department operating budget. We can address this revenue impact by either increasing our millage rate and affecting business owners and second homeowners, or we could cut services, or we could do a combination of that, or we can address CRA, the CRA and cut CRA projects. And considering that the CRA, that the city was looking at sunsetting the CRA in 2021, and we were recommending that we move the Pelican Clubhouse project to an indefinite funding year in the city's regular CIP, as well as the Gemini Park project, both of which were funded. The Pelican Beach Clubhouse was funded at $920,000. The construction of Gemini was funded at $200,000. And we would recommend moving these projects to the CIP, which would mean that we may get to them sooner or later, and just to be honest. And so basically, we're looking at cutting these projects until we have the general fund dollars to complete them. This is recommended largely so that we do not overburden our business owners in our community or cut general services in our community. If you do recommend completing this amendment, we've provided a schedule of approvals in your packet. August 2nd is our CRA meeting currently. We would then move to a August 21st local planning agency meeting where they would review the amendment to make sure it's consistent with the comprehensive plan. The final recommendation would come to you on September 6th. The first reading would then also come on September 6th, and at that time you would also look at entering into the county's interlocal agreement option that we agreed to when we went through the CRA workshop. And then on September 20th, you would have your second reading. So if that's acceptable to you, then we will move down that time frame and move in that direction.
Question. Should the advisory committee get this also, get feedback from them, or is it strictly from?
The advisory committee doesn't really deal with budgeting issues.
Okay.
So they would look at the projects themselves, but this is not a CRA issue. This is a city fund issue, and whether or not the city wants to end the CRA earlier because we're having a city funding problem. So I'm not sure a CRA advisory committee would be appropriate to make that decision.
I'm sure I covered the bases there.
So we're basically looking at ending it 1 year early than the 2021, and we still have 6 years after that, and all our debt will be paid off.
Correct.
At the end of that 6 years. And
so when we say we're ending it, we're just ending the projects. Correct.
So the CRA will continue out its term.
To just pay the debt service.
With the interlocal agreement, all we're doing is going to the county, letting them know we're going to end the projects.
Correct.
So I don't see them having an issue with that because they're still getting their money.
Maybe that's what they want.
Yeah, and that's what they want. Realistically, if we're looking at including these two projects into the CIP, how far out are we looking at the clubhouse? Do you have any kind of estimate?
Well, we have several city facilities that need to be also addressed, including the Public Works facility that needs to be replaced. The building is too far gone to repair. And then also the police department needs another floor if we keep it there. So we need to look at those areas in the context of the future flooding issues that we're going to be experiencing in the next 20 years. So we'll be working with the interns to put together that package for you to make those decisions in the next coming year. But I don't see the Pelican Beach Clubhouse getting done for a very long time.
What about the possibility of some grants on the Gemini project?
Yes, we can definitely get grants for that, yes.
Okay. Because that would be if we could do that, that would be great.
Yeah.
And utilize grant funds to do it. Okay.
What will be the upside to our general revenue from taking those funds now that are used in the CRA that would be put into our general fund, back into it?
If you look at your spreadsheet, go to the bottom two rows, which it says city TIF payback and county TIF payback. Because we can't shut the CRA down because we have debt service, we still have to pay into the CRA, but then we use that provision in the statute that allows us to pay back the taxing authorities unused TIF funds. So that's what we're doing here. And you'll see that in the city, TIF payback is $885,205 in the first year. And as that moves up, you see the millions down later down the road. The county TIF payback would be at $590,000.
So the 885 the first
So in the
year.
year of 1920 so when you see those project line items go blank, that's when what we're paying is the debt service and the banking fees, and that's really it.
Right, and so then the first year is 885. So by then, with interest, that's almost neutral on that 25.
It would be neutral, yes. It would actually be more than that impact, yeah.
So is it possible that moving forward with all the building, the 25 acres, and then possibly finishing off these condos in front of A1A, and then potentially this, it seems realistic that in a couple of years when we start getting that tax revenue, we could then be making enough to possibly do the Pelican Clubhouse, potentially?
Yeah, I think when you see the cost of what it's going to take to do the city facilities and actually having to secure property, that's going to be tough. I'm just trying to give a realistic.
Yeah, I know, it's just unfortunate. I know it's the reality, it's the nature of the beast, but it's just unfortunate that happens.
Thank you. At this time, there's no further.
Yep, that's the only bad news I have, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve the recommendation from the executive director to cut the CRA projects in the 1920 year and amend the plan to reflect that change.
Second?
I have a motion by member Montanaro, second by member Vice Chair Osmer. At this time, I'll open up for public comment. Hearing none, bring it back to council. Any further discussion at this time? Okay, hearing none. Lenore?
Mindy Gibson?
Yes.
Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Osmer?
Yes.
Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes, motion passes. Thank you, Courtney. Moving on to agenda item 7, discuss take action on site plan location at 1604 and 1612 Highway A1A. John?
Hi. Good afternoon. If you recall back February 1st, 2017, the CRA accepted a contract to sell the Peg Legs property, and a condition of that sale was that the buyer present us with a site plan demonstrating basically what it's going to look like and what the uses on the property were going to be. When a CRA looks at acquiring property, there's principally 3 things that they're looking at. One of them is removing blight. I don't think there's any question, for those who remember the Corinthian Apartments and Peg Legs, that we can check that box. We definitely remove blight. The second thing is to channel development. We knew that at a signalized intersection, very possibly a gas station could go over there. And obviously, back during those ad hoc committees, the citizens spoke pretty loudly that they did not want that. So it was an opportunity by acquiring property to channel that development to something we thought was more compatible and sustainable and a benefit for the community. And lastly is to encourage redevelopment. Staff really wasn't interested in looking so much at selling the property to an investor to sit on that land and make some tiny little profit down the road. We were looking for a project, and a project that met the intent of the CRA plan. So with that said, what we have here tonight is Larry Maxwell, Space Coast Architects. He represents the buyers and what they are proposing to do with the property, and some general ideas to what it's going to look like. Got a couple examples of some conceptual renderings, both Florida vernacular and Mediterranean style. And with that said, I'm going to turn over to Larry Maxwell, and he'll fill you in.
Thank you, John. Council, thanks for having me here. I have to apologize for my client. She cannot make it tonight because she's ill. She probably has the same thing I have right now, so I don't plan on not being here. We've worked on this project for a while, and as you can see, the 2 boards, which I'll talk to in just a minute, we have come up with 2 concepts for the same project. One, of course, being a Mediterranean style one being a more Floridian style based on your design criteria that's in other parts of your code. Basically, what we're looking at here, of course, is the former L-shaped Peg Lakes restaurant site in the southwest corner of Highway A1A and Soda Parkway. The proposed design is for a mixed-use commercial and residential three-story structure with an L-shaped footprint that matches the footprint of the site. The project combines 9 high-end residential condominium units over commercial uses, over ground level parking and ground level commercial also. We have covered parking. One of the things you'll notice in the designs as I walk you through in a few minutes is we have worked the parking in such a way that it's not really visible from either A1A or DeSoto or from the residents on Palm either. We've kind of tucked them underneath the building in the process. We have on the ground floor, we have covered parking and a commercial space, which is a proposed hotel lobby and proposed restaurant on the ground floor. The second floor is proposed an upscale specialty boutique hotel. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term. A boutique hotel typically is a small high-end hotel that caters to a specific client. In this case, typically the higher-end business traveler who's either dealing with Patrick Air Force Base, SpaceX, and those sorts of entities that are flying right now, not really facilities that meet their needs. This hotel would only have 25 rooms in it. It is not catered to the tourist traffic at all, strictly for more high-end business-type travelers. It is also, we've located the commercial both restaurant on the ground floor, which is open both to the public and to, of course, the hotel. But because of the constraints of the site, we don't have any other commercial on the ground floor at all. We have located all the commercial, both the hotel and the restaurant, on the very east side of the property next to A1A so that they will not have any impacts on the residences on Palm Avenue. Typically, the boutique hotel generates notably less traffic compared to a more typical commercial, retail, or office complex. We did a bunch of studies to find out what was most appropriate, whether it was retail, commercial, or office. Of course, tends to be a sort of a glut of office space in this area, both here and on the mainland right now, so there's a lot of empty space that's not generating the revenues that investors need to have to make it work. So we're concerned that there would be two things. It would be difficult to get investors for this, and we might end up with a building that can't generate the revenues necessary to maintain it. And typically, with this specialty high-end hotel type situation, it generates 2 to 3 times the revenue per square foot that even a Class A office building would. And so we figure this is more conducive to this area. Transient lodging, tourist lodging is not considered as a market for this facility at all. We do have some amenities, a swimming pool and a spacious deck, both for use of the hotel and the condo residences, and they are located on the east side of the building on the second floor, so they will not have any impacts to the residents on Palm Avenue either. A quarter of the second floor, which is in the west portion of the L, is residential. We have on that portion, we have a ground floor enclosed parking garage strictly for the use of the residents of the condos. We have 10, we're allowed to have 1 parking space per condo unit. We have actually 10, we have 1 extra one that's enclosed secured parking. And then over that are 3 condominium units that for this facility are 2-story units. So the units that are on Palm Avenue are strictly residential over residential parking. We have no commercial in that L-shaped portion of the project at all. The ground floor east wing has both covered and open parking for the commercial portions of the project with access from DeSoto and a right-in, right-out from A1A. So we've tried to control the traffic so we don't have any traffic moving into the residential areas of the project or even noticeable by the residential areas of the project at all. We have also, per the request of the city, added 17 additional parking spaces underneath the building for use by the community for beach events access. One thing it did do to us, though, one of the things that we were very careful was that according to your planning and zoning, we have a maximum 70% lot coverage and impervious. We are about 65% lot coverage for the building, but we exceed the impervious because of the parking area strictly for those areas. 17 additional spaces over and above requirements for this project for the city. What we're proposing to do there, though, is those would be pervious parking spaces, so it would be able to adjust that, and I'll speak more to that in a few minutes. One of the very important parts of this whole aspect, and one of the reasons why they approached our firm, is, as you may know from us in our presentations to your Sustainability Committee, I've owned my firm for over 28 years now, and I have focused my firm on sustainability issues throughout. I actually present and lecture throughout the state of Florida to architects and other design professionals in design sustainability, designing for example, our environment and lagoon-friendly, alternate energy-friendly. And so we have a client who is very much interested, and we are pushing the limits of what can be done. We think we have a showcase project not only for the city of Satellite Beach, but for the state of Florida. And I'll touch on some of those issues in a few minutes. But a few things that we have is we have a highly efficient envelope design for this project that just by its very nature will be an extremely energy efficient building. We are proposing to put over 100,000 watts of photovoltaic power on the roof of the building. So this building should be a net zero building by its nature. And I believe it's going to be the first in the state of Florida, because we have been dealing with FP&L and the fairly onerous regulations that exist in the state of Florida for renewable energy and the investor-owned utilities. I think we have a unique situation here. What we're proposing is, even though we have a central array that will support all of the things here, for example, each of the 9 condo units will own their own portion of the array. It will be wired directly to their unit. And then the commercial portion will own its portion of the array wired directly to its unit. And so therefore, the association, if you will, is not selling power to the tenants, because of course that is not allowed under the way the statutes are set up right now. But in this case, when you buy your condo unit, your portion of the array is part of your possessions, and therefore we meet that criteria. And we think that we're unique in the state of Florida in that I've actually been working for a number of years now trying to change a lot of the statutes that exist in Florida for renewable energy. And we feel that in the meantime, while we're trying to do things in Florida, that we're finding kind of innovative ways to, you might say, keep their own game. And we feel this is a pretty innovative way of doing that. We also have electric vehicle charging stations that we provide both for the residents as well as for any visitors to the site, both in the commercial parking areas as well as in the residential parking garage. We're proposing a vegetated roof with a park-like setting to be used by strictly the residents of the condominium units, so they can go up on the top and have views of both the sunrise and sunset. They can have a barbecue up there if they want to, and we're going to have a vegetated roof in the process. And this also will speak to my next issue, which of course is we're doing a bigger island and lagoon friendly appropriate landscaping both on the ground and on the roof. We are proposing to do a lot of rainwater collection, and the irrigation of the facility will be by rainwater and stored rainwater. All of the landscaping will be drought tolerant, salt tolerant, Florida natives. A project that we did, you might be familiar with, is the Lumbar X building that's on A1A, and we had convinced the client on that one to put in all natives and naturals out there, and we, in effect, blew up that site. And so we want to keep doing this all up and down A1A and up and down the Barrier Islands as we can. So this is another opportunity for us to be able to show that not only does it work, not only is it very attractive, but also it has long-term positive effects on the lagoon system, and we all know what those issues are right now. So with that, what we have here is that's it in a nutshell. I can answer any questions, or I can start walking you through the rest of the project real quickly.
Questions from council at this time?
I guess when you walk through the project on the second floor where the rooms are,
Sure.
that open area in the middle, is that like a concourse that you look down on, or?
No, let me take you to that. This, of course, is just to get started. You know, we have the 2 exterior looks, but the floor plans within the 2 buildings are about the same. So this is what we call the Floridian look. Let me see if I can find something more here. which I believe is this right here.
Yeah, there's stuff in the middle.
Yes, the stuff right here, right now, are unassigned spaces, but they will be such things as a workout room. There'll be some meeting rooms, like if you have a client, you need to meet with them at the hotel. You know, of course, the hotel's laundry facilities, back of the house.
Yeah,
if you
I
will.
saw them as blank spaces, and I
Yes.
wondered what they were.
Correct, that's what they are. Those are
Okay.
just undefined at this point, but we know that we have to have them. And so with approval of the project, then we'll go into the next level of design for this. As you see, the hotel rooms are around the perimeter, and then what we call the hotel main lobby. Downstairs, of course, is the entrance lobby with, the reception desk and what have you, the elevators, and a grand staircase up to the living room, if you will, which is really where you kick back in the evening, and visit with people. We have a porch over here that looks out over the intersection of Southern A1A, and then everybody can come out onto the deck here, whereas also all the rooms on this side have, in effect, kind of small private decks directly outside their room that open up to the larger deck with the pool at the end right here. So all of the activity, if you will, we don't see, it's not a party atmosphere, but it's still, all the activities are focused towards the noise, if you will, as opposed to the residential areas. What we've done is, of course, this line of the building parallels A1A and comes to the front setback of 25 feet off of the property line. And then the main building itself rolls back to be parallel with, in effect, the back of the property, a true north-south, if you will. And that's what gives us this wedge-shaped deck area out here. This is approximately 35 feet on the long end, and then it runs for over 100 feet up to the north end of the building. So anybody can have access out to this deck. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're proposing is that the owners of the condo units will actually have access to the spa and workout facilities of the hotel, as well as the pool and the pool deck area. Now, they will also have the amenity of having the rooftop gardens, if you will, that is not available to any of the people that are staying at the hotel or the restaurant or anything else. That's strictly for the use of the residents of the condominium units. On the north side here, the access stairs and elevator for the hotel section is located at the north end right here. Of course, the egress stair at the south end. This area here over in the left-hand wing, the west wing, is the residential wing. On the ground floor, which I'll show you in a minute, is the parking spaces for the residences. That garage is accessed off of Palm for 10 parking spaces. And then they have their own lobby and elevator accessible from the garage as well as from DeSoto and from the parking area here. So, for example, if they have guests that come to visit them, those guests will park in the commercial parking areas, have direct access into their secure lobby, and come up to their units. But on this west wing here, we have 3 condominium units that are 2-story units. And the way we've designed this is all condominium units are really, their front door is on the 3rd floor. And so, for example, with these units, you actually take the elevator up to the 3rd floor, you enter your unit, and then you go down to the 2nd floor to the bedrooms, because the top floor is where, the views and the access to the breezes are to the best. So in those cases, we kind of did a flip plan, if you will, so that they feel like they have the same front door as everybody else, which is on the 3rd floor. We do, for example, also have access from the elevator on the 2nd floor to bring furniture and what have you, and for egress, so even out of the 2nd floor, you have emergency egress out of your units to the emergency stairwell at the end. One of the things, and this is probably an appropriate time to mention it, is the way your ordinance reads is commercial has a 25-foot setback from a residential area, and residential has a 15-foot setback from a residential area. What we have on the north wing is to make the garage work. We needed all of the area within the setback on the DeSoto side and the setback on the south side here. So we have 25 feet on the DeSoto side, we have 15 feet on this side, but only for the first floor garage. And then on the 2nd and 3rd floor, we push it back to the 25-foot setback. And at the top of the garage, we're doing a extensive landscaping planter area, so that, for example, if you are the resident next door, all you see is plantings, but the actual building itself appears to be the full 25 feet away. Okay. Now, in fact, I can go back and show you the first floor to see how all that works. This is the site plan to orient you. This is the DeSoto Parkway, this is Palm Drive, and this is A1A. This is the intersection of A1A and DeSoto. The access to the commercial parking is off of DeSoto right here. We have both an in and out. We have two-way drives within. The site itself is along this line here. We have your typical 6-foot wall that we have to have between a residential and commercial. There is, and it's odd to this site, there is a 5-foot bump out right here for 100 feet. I'm not really sure what that was, but that actually puts us another 5 feet further away from the property line of the residence. So they were actually 30 feet because the building itself, while the parking comes closer, which is allowed to do, the actual building is a minimum of 25 feet from the property line. However, over here we have a 15-foot setback to the wall of the garage. We have entrance into just the residential garage only for 10 parking spaces is off of Palm. And we have the garage door here. And of course, these residents are able to actually access. This is the lobby for the condo units with an entry onto DeSoto. And as you see here, also an entry off of the commercial parking area here. The hotel and restaurant is accessed in this curve right here. You enter through the curve and go to the hotel area here. You have a grand staircase and an elevator, and then you can go around this side into the restaurant with the kitchens will be located down at the end. Even because this corner really is not a pedestrian corner, but we want to address and make it feel like a pedestrian-friendly building, we actually have an entry that is also off of the corner here, which you'll see also in the perspective in just a minute. And we try to make it a grand entry where we actually bring you up onto a porch, bring you up 3 steps onto a porch, come into the building, you actually then come back down 3 steps to the level of the hotel and restaurant, because of course you have to meet the ADA requirements. But to do that, it makes the buildings sit visually more proud on the site, and so that when you're driving by on A1A, it looks like it has some physical stature. We've done a few more things that we'll talk about in a minute to have the building have some presence on A1A too. Then, as we go up to, let's real quickly again to the second floor. As you can see how this rotates around, the restaurant is located only under this wedge-shaped portion of the building. The hotel is located over the parking on the second floor, and of course, residential parking garage. And then on the third floor, this one right here. Of course, here's the elevator that comes out of the condo units lobby up to the third floor. These are the 3 two-story units with their walkway. They all have deep porches on the second and third floor facing to DeSoto. Then we have 6 more units, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, located really facing east. Their access is on the west side here, but we're doing a couple of things once again to continue to maintain the privacy of the residences. There's some duplex townhouse units on Palm. What we've done, we have almost a 20-foot wide walkway here, so we kind of pulled the units away and pulled the people away from the walkway, but we're also putting in a long planter and a solid railing, so the people, as they're walking to their units, they're pulled back far enough away from the edge that they're not, up against the railing looking down in someone's backyard. And the same thing from the residences next door, they're not looking and seeing people walking back and forth. So we made a big effort to try and maintain as much visual privacy, as well as for the hotel units on the second floor that are facing west. All of those have a bomb-type shutter over the windows, not only to cut down on heat gains in the afternoon, but to prevent people in the hotel rooms from really looking out into backyards of the tenants, and also provide them privacy from the tenants of the duplex units. So all of the condominium units really have deep porches that are located on the east side, because of course they are high enough now that they'll be able to look out towards the ocean and the horizons and what have you. So we made their main porches located on the east side of the building. So we're focusing them to the other side of the building also, to try and keep, that privacy from, the same thing. Some people, even when you have a 3-story building, they may be 2 blocks away and they get this impression that, people are staring at me. We made a big effort to try and prevent that appearing at all.
That is a big concern here in Satellite, because we have so many 1-story homes that,
Absolutely.
so the 2-story construction, whenever anybody starts that in any house, you'll see the next door neighbors put their house up for sale out of concern for that. So I was wondering, like, for the second and third floor, especially for the hotel piece, the ones that look over the homes, is there a way to use, if the window is not for viewing, could we use a block glass or some type of, beveled glass or something like that, where it provides the light but not a view?
Well, what we've done, like I say, is we do have Bermuda shutters that hang over windows at an angle, so at best they can look down.
Oh, I
towards
see.
the
Okay,
apartment.
okay.
But also, even if they were able to look forward, the interesting thing is, at their level, those duplexes have very high-pitched roofs on
Okay,
them.
yep.
And so all they look into, if they look straight out, would be into those roofs. They can't see over the roofs unless they look up toward the sunset. It's only third-floor people that will have a little bit more of that in the process. So yeah, we did that to try and take care of that issue entirely.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I saw the Bermuda shutters. They're basically going to be on both renderings.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, both just from an energy standpoint, that western sun is always more of a heat load, and there's not a view over there for them because of the roofs. And so, but of course, you have to have windows in every unit, for light. And even though they say for ventilation, you notice that rarely can you find a hotel floor that actually has an operable window anymore, because that's been taken out of the code. I actually prefer to put them in, make them operable so you get fresh air, because I think there's actually a very nice benign part of the year that we're all aware of, that can run, from October through April or May. And anytime, I have to do a lot of travel around the state. Anytime I'm in a hotel and I have the opportunity to crack my window at night, I do that. And so we would want to do that here too, but at the same time, that whole issue we want to be able to address. If we did something like frosted glass, people are thinking that you're trying to block a view of something that's really undesirable. Because we've all been in hotels too, where you look at it and go, ugh,
Yeah.
that's not real pretty.
Right.
So you try to avoid that, but at the same time, really, when you control the view, like with the Bahamas shutters, they don't feel like they're being
Yeah,
controlled in the
that's
process.
fine. Yeah, that works.
I have a quick question.
Questions from council?
Sorry.
Okay.
On the Florida style, it looks like the pool is not in the front, it's in the back?
No, it's in the front also.
Okay, so I have this one. and it
That's
shows
an older
it.
one.
Well, it's, the rendering, it's a little hard to read if you look at the rendering, because the way that area triangles out, okay, it just didn't show up real well, but it is this area right here.
Oh, no, I must have it wrong. This one has the pool. She just handed the big one.
Yeah.
So that's why I was
Oh, that's
confused.
Sorry, those are the old
yeah,
ones.
that's a
Okay.
very, very old
I
one.
thought maybe
Those
this was
early
more
renderings
updated.
got modified again after.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Just giving
Okay,
you
yes.
ones, because it seemed like you were having a hard time figuring out where the units were when you...
Before I open up for public comment, other questions from council at this time? At this time, open up for public comment on agenda item 7, the site plan at preliminary site plan at 1604 and 1612 Highway A1A.
David Chetra, 635 Snow Court. Thank you. Yeah, that was an exciting time working that, and so I think this sounds like a very good project for that, from my perspective. They've done a lot of work to address the concerns that people had there, and so it looks great to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Further public comment? Hearing none, bring it back to the board. Any further comment or questions need to be asked?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love it that you're taking the sustainability side of it. And I actually worked for Mercedes Homes several years ago, and I like their designs and the people that, that they have there. But I wanted to ask a quick question. Are you using any other building materials that are eco-friendly? Are you going to go that step further beyond and using anything that's more green other than like your typical building materials, or are you just going with like the standard stuff, or other than just like the solar?
There's a number of things we're going to be using. One of the things that we're proposing to use, of course, on the landscape first, is we're looking at pervious pavers and landscape pavers, and of course, all of that. The building itself, we want to construct of what's known as ICF construction instead of concrete form construction. Of course, we deal with 160-mile-an-hour winds, is the code requirement for the beach. So we want to have a building. ICF forms is a new construction type that has come in that addresses both the energy and sustainability as well as the structural issues. It is actually has a poured solid concrete wall that is insulated on both sides with insulation, so it's extremely energy efficient. It's like, in effect, we're building a Yeti cooler to house people, and is in effect what we're doing. All of the products we typically use in all of our projects, we use low and no VOC paints. We use materials that are what's called cradle-to-cradle materials, so that, for example, the old trees we cradle to grave, how do they work during the time that we use them before we throw them away? We try to specify materials that even at the end of their life, that they can be recycled into new materials. They're not a material that does not have recyclability to them. And so we constantly are picking the materials that we use to be sure that we have the best materials are out there that have that cradle-to-cradle aspect to them, that have the highest indoor air quality possible with them, to be sure that we look at all of the aspects of sustainability and really try to drive our projects. One of the things that city manager was, we were able to give a tour of a school we had designed actually over 15 years ago now, and even then we used the highest levels of green materials. We reduced the energy efficiency of the building by 80% without we haven't even incorporated any really solar aspects to the building yet. We have the highest level of indoor air quality standards of probably any public school in Brevard County right now, and when we reduced that building's use, of course, if you're familiar with LEED, USCBC's LEED program, people ask me if I meet LEED standards, and I says typically no, if I don't want to reduce my quality of my projects. What I mean by that, of course, is typically LEED will say that you can do really good if you can reduce energy use of your building by 15 or 20%. We have been able to tell clients at the beginning of the project we will reduce it by a minimum 50%. Of course, my insurance underwriters, well, you can't say that, Larry. We said, well, we can say that because we actually know that we're going to be closer to 80, 90%. So if we say I can guarantee 50, that's an easy piece right there. So everything we try to do, we really try to incorporate every level. Sometimes if we have a client that may not be real interested in it, we practice what I have coined the term stealth sustainability, that we're going to do it anyway, and we'll just tell you about it after we've shown that we've met your program, met your budget, and met all your needs. And by the way, we did all these things to you too in the process. So whether you hire us to do that or not, it's going to end up in your project because it's the right way. Before, when people say, when do you design it to code? I says, well, code says this is minimum what you have to do. Okay, we exceed the code in everything we do in our project because that's minimally what you're allowed to do. I've actually sat on the Florida Energy Code task force and committees for over 10 years and tried to drive the codes to be more efficient across the board in the process. So yeah, that's who we are, that's what we do.
Well, I got to tell you, we all probably can go over this dais and pick out which are the favorite buildings in Satellite Beach that we have, and the One RX building is just one example of, one of those buildings. So you did a great job on that. Thank you. I think this project is probably, has the ability to be another one of those buildings. So thank you for bringing forth everything that you've put into this. I think it's wonderful what you're doing with the solar stuff on this building. I think it's out of the box. And this is what Satellite Beach is. We try to do things out of the box and try to, incorporate as much of this stuff as we can. So I'd like to make a motion to...
Go
ahead. You can do that. Thanks.
Go.
Larry, I was just going to say, there's some of us that have been up here for a long time waiting to see something like this come forward. I actually thought we'd probably see people on Mars before we saw this come forward. Great presentation. Really a nice project. And you presented it very well. I think everybody up here has a great grasp of it. And I would also like to say to John and to Courtney, nice job on pulling this one off, guys. This is... all right, we'll give John all the credit. Nice job, John. But anyhow, thank you. And Don, go ahead.
If I might, Mayor, before you say anything, one of the things that makes these kinds of projects happen is cities like yourself, where not only are you supportive of this, because we actually, even in my profession, receive a lot of pushback from clients and committees and what have you. So I have to also thank you, because when my client came to me with this project and I knew it was Satellite Beach, I was excited, because I knew that y'all were willing to really open, and consider doing the right thing, and we knew that we could do the right thing, and so it just seemed to be such a great relationship. So I was excited from the get-go, and I couldn't be more pleased with what you said so far tonight, so thank you.
Thank you. Someone give a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the concept plan for use for 1604 and 1612 Highway 1A purchase agreement.
Second.
I have a motion by Member Montanaro, second by Vice Chair Osmer. Further discussion from council? Excuse me, from the board. Hearing none. Lenore?
Mindy Gibson?
Yes.
Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Osmer?
Yes.
Excuse me, Vice Chairman Osmer, Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes. Motion
Let
passes.
the record show that Member Gibson really wanted to second that motion.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you very much. Great job, staff. We appreciate it. Moving on to agenda item 8, the improvements of minutes. The
So moved.
motion by Member Breimer, a second.
Second.
By Member Gibson. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Lenore?
Dominic Montanaro?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Osmer?
Yes.
Mindy Gibson?
Yes.
Mark Breimer?
Yes.
Chairman Catino?
Yes. Any further business for the committee? Hearing none, meeting's adjourned. Take a couple-minute break, and then we have an interview or workshop.
Right.
Okay? We'll start a couple